heute mit Julian Grigo und Alexis Hamel sprechen. Sie leiten die Solaris Digital Assets, das ist die Tochtergesellschaft der Solarisbank, die auch Kryptos verwahrt. Und heute wird das einfach erstmal allgemein so ein bisschen aufgerollt. Was ist denn eigentlich die Rolle von Kryptos in der Finanzwelt? Was wird es in der Zukunft sein? Werden wir in der Zukunft, muss ja nicht mit Bitcoin sein, aber mit irgendeiner Kryptowährung bezahlen? Und da wird ja auch immer gern dieser revolutionäre Aspekt hervorgehoben. Glauben Sie daran? Glauben Sie nicht daran? Was ist überhaupt dran? Ja, bleibt dran, dann werdet ihr es erfahren. Das Interview ist auf Englisch, denn Alexis spricht, ich weiß nicht, ob er Deutsch spricht, aber er spricht auf jeden Fall lieber Englisch. Und deswegen, genau, wird das jetzt auch noch ein kleiner Englischkurs. Bis dann. So, hey guys. Hi Alexis. Hi Julian. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Dana. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Dana.
Yeah. So, first to start with, maybe you could give a short introduction on what is it that you do at Solaris Digital Assets exactly? Maybe you could start, Julian.
Yeah, thanks, Dana. So my name is Julian. I'm one of the two MDs of Solaris Digital Assets, and I will be focusing on the commercial part. So business development, sales, and partner management and onboarding. I think it's a very interesting time to start working here. I just recently joined Solarisbank on October the 1st. So it's, I think, my 8th week here, and it's so thrilling. You can't believe it. I'm really curious to drive crypto adoption with the team.
Great. So I'm very happy to be working with Julian. I've been with Solarisbank for a little bit more than 2 years now. So back then, we started to address the crypto market by offering banking services for crypto and blockchain company, which was a huge pain point a couple of years back. And from there, we decided actually to expand our product offering with pure crypto and digital asset product. Our first product is our custody API, which actually enable any of our partner to add a crypto wallet on top of a bank account. So yeah, we've been doing that for 2 years now. So yeah, very happy to drive the adoption in that regard.
Yes, sounds interesting. Maybe you could actually elaborate on what is actually so difficult about storing digital assets and what issues is Solaris Digital Assets addressing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's two to three main components to look into. I think the first one is about the user experience, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to be able to have the mass adoption, and to be able to do so, you need to offer a state-of-the-art user experience, meaning you need to be simple, need to be easy. So that's one component, the user experience. The second one, I think, is the regulatory part of thing. So, you know, in Germany, and especially I think in Europe in general, there was the AML-D5 directive, which meant that like every custody or wallet provider now is an obliged entity. And for example, in Germany, it results into a license requirement. So obviously now you need to have a license to be able to secure this asset. And the last one, and probably the biggest one, is around tech and security. So obviously, as we know, safekeeping, you know, crypto assets is you really need to have a key focus on security, and that's what we, you know, tackle very well on our side. You know, we are a tech company with a full banking license at Solarisbank, and therefore we have the expertise on the engineering side, security and regulatory, and we combine the three to offer, you know, the best services for our partner out there.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, there was also like a big launch a couple of days ago. So you actually partnering with Bitwala, and he will be the first partner for your Solaris Digital Asset solution. And so basically it means from now on customers of Bitwala in Europe will be able to store both Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? So I was wondering which advantages does the partnership bring and what's happening next?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's you know, as mentioned, that's a perfect example of showing the strength of Solarisbank as a whole. Like, you know, with our digital asset unit, Bitwala is a great crypto pioneers in the German market, really offering a great user experience for the end user, and they're able to leverage different modules from Solarisbank. You know, starting from the bank account, the cards, the KYC services, and now. They are able to leverage our custody API to create seamless user experience for the end user. And I think the huge advantage of that is really improving the overall user experience for having a simpler onboarding process for the end user, but also lower fees for the transaction processing, with their trading setup, and also fast transaction processing. So I think that's a great example to see, having such a great crypto pioneer using our solution to start with, to really improve the overall user experience for the end user. And, all that offering is seamlessly packaged within Bitwala offering. So, yeah.
Yeah, so you will basically address the gap between availability and security in some ways, right, with the solution?
Yes, absolutely. So on our side, we use multi-party computation technology or threshold signature, and therefore, we remove also, that pain point around availability and security, and also we have a distributed approval process for the end user and Bitwala, which also increase a lot the approval process and the overall security of the setup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds very promising. So maybe, Julian, you could further define what you would say is the current role of crypto in the financial landscape. That would be also interesting, especially in regard to your solution.
No problem. So I think we have 2 hours now. I think it's a very broad question, but I like to give some hints on this. So I think what we can see right now is that especially Bitcoin, but also other cryptocurrencies like Ether and ERC20 tokens gained a huge acceptance and established themselves as as actually assets for the capital market. And you can see funds investing, banks investing. You can see family offices starting to invest there. And of course, to relate back to Bitwala, a huge masses of retail investors starting to invest in Bitcoin, because this gets more and more established as an asset class. And a second point that we can see is that companies who are not originally crypto companies like PayPal, Revolut, or Robinhood, they start offering buying, selling, and custody of crypto assets as well. So that will be another huge push for retail investors to be able to invest into this asset. And this whole crypto revolution and the establishment of crypto as an asset, but also things like DeFi, really are a huge game changer. And I think we will be looking back to the year of 2020, where this really kind of broke through. And it's very interesting to see this happening. And especially through this move of PayPal and so on, what is happening there? If we zoom out a little bit, you see that crypto crypto offering kind of gets commodified. So when we look back at banking, nowadays it's very easy to offer a bank account to your customer if you are Uber. Or for example, Samsung Pay, now they offer payment. They were producing fridges and smartphones. Now they offer payment. And we think that in the future, crypto will be as commodified as banking is. And we try to take a part in this and really establish or enable our partners to offer crypto services, digital asset services to everyone. I think that's the mission, and it's I think it's a broad mission, but we are happy to execute on that.
Yes, I think you mentioned it just right now. What I find mostly interesting at the moment is that we're seeing this merging of digital asset industry with fintech and traditional financial services. So is it also like, where do you see the trends in the banking space going? So generally, maybe. Yeah,
so I think it's first, of course, banking coming closer to this digital asset ecosystem. You see some of them are front runners. They are very, very advanced already, and some are a little bit late, maybe there. But on the other side, it's also very interesting to look at big crypto native companies moving into banking. So it's from both sides. They are coming closer and closer, and I think that's absolutely is a nice sign for every retail investor as well as investor in general, because the efficiencies and the advantages of crypto, be it like as a store of value, be it for payment, be it for DeFi applications, will be huge and massive, and will be a huge advantage for them. And maybe also let's look into DeFi. Decentralized finance will enable centralized finance companies like Solarisbank is one, to enable that and get some advantage from there and offer it to clients. You can see that with a big crypto companies and custodians. They start offering that, and I think that is also could also be a trend in the future, that we will see a merger of DeFi and CeFi, so traditional finance.
Ah, interesting. And also you, Alexis, you said in a blog post, whether it is currencies, equity, debt, or real estate, any asset can be issued as a token on a blockchain protocol. So this sounds very promising, but overall, also you mentioned before, the crypto or digital asset revolution hasn't really happened yet, so in my opinion. So what do you think are the main hurdles so far to in crypto going mainstream, basically?
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. You know, I think that's the long-term vision. I think depending on which field do you address, it will take, you know, a little bit more time or less time depending on the field. You know, when it comes to tokenizing traditional assets from the financial services industry, it's often a very, highly regulated industry. So obviously, it always takes a little bit more time to innovate in this type of industry versus industry which are less regulated. And I think what we still start to see though is the increase in new business model related to crypto. Julian just mentioned DeFi. You can see, some token being used a lot when it comes to stable coin, for example, which is key for the DeFi ecosystem. But I think what we'll see more and more is new business model with some engagement token that are being used by company to launch their product and to activate their user. So I think that will be less regulated potentially, and easier to drive the adoption. And then progressively, I think we will see in the background, with the coming regulation in the EU, the realization of the tokenization of traditional assets. And it's a bit of a chicken and egg problem, right? If you are dealing with a highly regulated space, you need the regulation to be there for all the players to start working on that. But I think it's coming, and it might take, a little bit more time than it was originally expected, but it's coming.
Yes, and also in regard of your solution, and also your partnership with Bitwala, will you actually eventually extend it with more cryptocurrencies, since DeFi is booming? So
yeah, absolutely. So in that regard, it's always up to our partner to decide, what exactly do they want to do and on where do they want to expand. But that's definitely something, we find very interesting. And on our platform, we started, with Bitcoin and Ethereum, but we can support also additional assets. Right now we can already support all ERC20 token, which are mainly used, for example, for stablecoin, and we can expand on that as well. So yeah, definitely looking forward to expand, and not to limit ourselves just with Bitcoin and Ether.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. And just to go back a bit to regulation, because that's a huge topic. So, I mean, this year a lot has happened. So we started to see developments across multiple jurisdictions. First of all, Germany with a BaFin license to crypto custody, and then Singapore with a payment license, also United States OCC letter. So do you actually think that crypto can be compliant with demands from global regulators all over the world?
So maybe I will start, and I think Julian has also an opinion on that very briefly. I think that's what is so interesting about crypto, right? It's global, and then you have to translate that into local law, which is a challenge. I think at the European level, I think the good news with MiCA. This will be a directive at the European level. So I think that's a regulation at the European level. So therefore, that will be a good news. It will mean harmonization, but it's it's coming. It will be there probably in 2 to 3 years. So there's still a bit of time. I think what is definitely a challenge is, things like the travel rule, then, need to be implemented globally, and it's very difficult to harmonize regulation globally. So definitely an open challenge, but I will let Julian comment a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I think I totally agree to what Alexis said first, but what we can, if we zoom out a little bit, what is Bitcoin? What is blockchain? What is Ethereum and the settlement of all these ERC20 tokens? It's a globalized standard, right? Mm-hmm. It's a global settlement layer. You don't have your for example, payments that will be in the end settled by the national central bank. It is not security trading that in the end will be settled in any kind of centralized security depository. No, it is a global decentralized settlement layer. And that brings, of course, another set of regulatory requirements. But at the same time, it's a huge chance to kind of merge into a much more globalized, permissionless, and censorship-free ecosystem. And I think that is very, very important. But to be totally clear here, we are convinced that AML law has to be in place. Otherwise, for many reasons. I mean, we want to live in a safe society on the one hand, and on the other hand, I think it's crucial to see bigger institutions, funds, insurance companies, banks to migrate on this new layer. And therefore, regulation has to be in place. And I'm very curious on how this will sort out, between the fiat world, which is basically very national, and then on the other hand, the very, very globalized ecosystem of blockchains.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And also all these recent developments on, for example, PayPal's integration of Bitcoin, do you think those events will also accelerate the use of the Solaris Digital Assets maybe?
Yeah, sure. I think there are many companies looking at these big techs, and also these big techs kind of bring a demand to society. I mean, it's always a kind of exposition factor when you see people. It's same with mobile payment. Maybe you have never paid with your smartphone on a cash on a checkout in the supermarket, but if you see many people around you doing that, you might start wanting that as well. So from the retail customers, we see a huge increase of demand on this side, but also from our partners, because first they want to be competitive with the other big techs, and second, they see the demands of their retail customers. And that's what I exactly mean with commodifying crypto. Crypto needs to be in place where people are. It has to be brought into the context. Like with contextual banking, there will in the future be contextual crypto. And that's what Solarisbank is offering. We enable our partners to offer crypto to everyone. That's the mission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds like a bold statement, definitely. So if Solaris Digital Assets wants to bring crypto into the mainstream, it means that crypto has to be very, very easy to handle with, let's say, and so many people, they perceive crypto as something very, very complicated. So do you actually think that crypto will be an everyday payment method, maybe in the foreseeable future?
I think it definitely can be, but definitely not on the. Let's take Bitcoin. It started as a currency. It started wanting to be a currency, and today it is not there yet. It may evolve there, but maybe will never. And still, it fulfills a very crucial role. But coming back to currency, I mean, there are projects, and Alexis was referring to it, to stable coins, for example. Now they play a crucial role as an exchange medium within DeFi. But why not expand that to the supermarket and e-commerce in the future as well? I think, as said, it's a global settlement layer, and why not build your business on a global settlement layer and not be restricted to a small little jurisdiction with just one fiat currency? So I think the potential is definitely there. But the ecosystem is not there yet. So that has to be built, but it will be built eventually. And I think we will see people paying with cryptocurrencies in the future. I'm pretty confident on that.
Yes. I mean, definitely for some, at the moment, there is this high volatility. Also, if you look at, for example, the DeFi space. There is some boom and bust. It's extreme. Some tokens, they're rising in one day of $1,000 US. The next day they're worth nothing, basically. So Julian, you wrote a white paper last year about the new fintech revolution, decentralized finance. Do you still agree on that?
Yeah, so you're referring to the DeFi white paper by Bitcoin, which is was my last position. The Tech Association I wrote together with a colleague, Patrick Hansen, and a DeFi expert, Victor von Wachter. So I think it is very important, as is with Bitcoin and Ethereum as well, with DeFi, we need to explain this new technology. We need to show what are the advantages, because this stuff is quite complicated. Because it is so complicated, and we see this long trajectory of Bitcoin being more and more established, but it's already kind of old, right? Like in terms of technology or new products. With DeFi it's the same. There are so many questions to be figured out. For example, UX, which is a crucial point, as Alexis pointed out. Also, the regulatory part of it is not that easy, right? It's even more complicated than handling Bitcoin as a licensed custodian. And of course, the education and the use cases and so on. We see huge developments on each of these pillars, but we are not there yet. But I think it's especially DeFi, decentralized finance, might be one of the biggest revolutionary things we've ever seen in banking for hundreds of years. When you look at like I know it's another bold statement, but it is bringing not only payment and value into a decentralized layer, but also services and like businesses actually. Maybe you know about Uniswap, which is a decentralized exchange. It fulfills need for people who want to swap coins on the one hand, and also you can earn money through it. Like you and me can earn money through it. We post our collateral there, for example, Ether and another token, and there will be exchanges in this swap where we bring in liquidity, and we can earn money from that. So it fulfills basic use cases, earning money with assets you have, it's kind of lending, and on the other side, exchanges. And this works totally decentralized. So I think companies in the regulated field like but also exchanges and banks in the future will have to look into DeFi. Are we there yet? Definitely not, but it will evolve to this, I guess.
So we're going to see a completely rebuilding of the financial infrastructure in the following 10 years, let's say.
Well, let's not talk about specific times, but I think it will have a huge impact, and the longer we wait, the bigger the impact,
Yeah, interesting. Would you like to add something, Alexis, or should I move on to the next question?
I think I totally agree with with what Julian mentioned, and I think it's always about a transition period, right? There's the ideal long-term view of what could happen, and then there will be transition period. And I think anything that bring us closer to that, it's a great news. There's often question on how do you perceive initiative like Libra, for example, or BTC and so on and so on. And in that regard, I think I don't think it's the ultimate goal, but I think, there will be different options in the market and consumer will be able to choose. And I think that's a great value which crypto and blockchain technology is bringing with this new ecosystem. It brings option to the customer. So, if you believe and you want to store Bitcoin because that's what, is the long-term value for you, that's great. If you believe for another use case and you want to use XYZ protocol or coins, you have the option to choose. And I think that's very important. And when the more option you have, the better the product is at the end and the services for the end user. So looking forward to see that transition. I think it's an exciting time to be around, right? We will see next 10, 20 years, how will this evolve?
Yes. And you spoke about ecosystem. Now we're all based in Germany, and Germany is kind of evolving more and more into the space. So, for instance, Coinbase is apparently striving for a BaFin license and has founded its own branch here in Germany. And Binance is increasingly advertising jobs for the German market. So, why are some of the big crypto players, also Solarisbank, Solaris Digital Assets, interested in the German market? Is it a good location, or what do you think?
Go first, Alexis.
I think there's a couple of reasons for that. The first one is obviously Germany is the largest market in the European Union. So obviously you have already a local market, which is very large in Europe. The second one, I think, which is quite interesting for many players, is Germany is quite advanced in Europe when it comes to regulation. And therefore, that means that there is regulatory certainty, which is, I think, a key need for large organizations to operate, right? Because you do not want to be, setting up your shop anywhere or applying for license, which are not really clear. But if you have a clear regulatory framework to work with, I think some of these companies, they are not all trying to avoid regulation. And, before there was just no regulation, which was clearly defined. And now that Germany has moved forward, for example, with this crypto custody license, I think it's already providing a lot of guidance, and it's potentially a strong foundation then you need to expand toward the rest of Europe. So I think that's my take on the topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, nothing to add on my side.
Yeah. So it means if a company is compliant in Germany, it will be compliant kind of anywhere else somehow. Or it will be easier to be compliant internationally, kind of.
Yeah, I think, that will be like a strong standard. And then at least, you know which license you are applying for. And with MiCA coming, I think that will be a strong foundation to then potentially expand towards the rest of the European Union.
Yeah. And, there's sometimes you hear this kind of hostility towards skepticism towards the BaFin, like they're so strict and everything. So what is your relationship with the BaFin?
So I think, I don't know, Julian, if you want to comment here first, but I think we have an excellent relationship with BaFin. We are a fully licensed entity, mm-hmm. and obviously the BaFin is here, to control, and I think the most important is always to protect the consumer at the end of the day. So I think they play, a key role here. And looking at like the regulation, and if you compare with different jurisdictions, I think that's one of the only country and regulator who has a clear license in mind. So in other country in Europe, you need to register, so you do not get a license. But from what we've heard in the market, it's also sometimes as difficult to get that registration, and then you are not really yet a licensed institute, which potentially prepare you for the evolution with MiCA. So for us, I think what is interesting to see, we are very happy in that environment in Germany, and you can see, there's a lot of traction in Germany when it comes to crypto and blockchain for a different type of use cases. So I think when you see all the crypto company out there, that means that's not the most horrible environment to be in.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to add anything, or?
Yeah, a little aspect regarding BaFin. Like in my old job as a representing political interest of fintechs towards BaFin, it was very interesting to see their development and their strength in understanding what is going on in this ecosystem. And crypto is still very new, and we talked about DeFi in this interview and so on. These are things hard to understand for the economy themselves. And now imagine, put yourself into the shoes of BaFin. You do not only have to understand it from the business and technical side, now you have to regulate it. It's extremely challenging, and I think what they do is a great job. So what we as said, or what we all need to do is to explain ourselves and educate on these market developments, and I think BaFin is doing a good job in having the conversations with the market leaders and front runners of this, to understand it better.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. So we're almost reaching to the end. So one of the last questions is, of course, there's this global situation which is kind of terrifying at the moment. That's why we're also in this video Zoom call and couldn't meet in person. But on the other side, the COVID virus kind of has accelerated the adoption, as horrible as it sounds, the adoption of the cryptocurrencies. And now we see Bitcoin at almost at the 17,000. I haven't checked it today, but do you think we expect a second kind of 2017 wave, or what do you think about the general?
Yeah, I mean, like commenting on the price is always difficult. And first of all, let us say, like the whole society is suffering from this virus. So first of all, it's nothing to be happy or about or something. We must be very clear about that. But the second point, I think digitization, I do not want to frame it as a winner of COVID, but more of as a helper for society. And when we look to mobile payment, it enables people to have less physical touch points. I think that is very important. Like, let's say on the crypto adoption, I think it might help that much more transactions will be conducted digitally, and therefore, as cryptocurrencies are part of like the digital ecosystem, they also will gain traction through this. About the Bitcoin price, I mean, that has a lot to do with the money supply by fiat currencies and so on. It's really hard to talk about that. You linked it, or you referred to back to 17 and to 18. I think what we had back then was a really huge hype for retail clients and also search results on Google Trends, if you look at that. If you compare it to today, we are far away from this hype. So like, so maybe I don't want to make any predictions, but I think there's still room to grow. Yeah, that's it.
Would you like to add anything, Alexis, or?
I don't know, not much. We see I think there was like, the hype side, there's always a hype cycle, and then, it grow progressively. I think now we're in the period where it's going to grow progressively, and we see, people building great things. So great project, great product. So yeah, I do not expect like, a huge hype again, but like, just like people building and growing the ecosystem progressively onwards now.
Cool. So yeah, final questions. Maybe you could kind of give a short insight on your roadmap. So the launch has happened with Bitwala's, with the new partnership with Bitwala, but what can we expect for the next couple of months of Solaris Digital Assets?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we definitely want to continue to do, right, is to follow our mission, which is, to drive digital asset adoption by, as Julian mentioned, enabling anyone, to use crypto. And therefore, for that, we started with great product, we solve concrete pain points, but we'll definitely continue to build on that. So you will see some, some development on our side and some announcement coming soon on additional products, and we will add to our entire ecosystem. But you can definitely expect us to continue to develop on top of what we have built, which means, our entire ecosystem on the digital asset side.
Yeah, and from a higher level, if you see, look at Solarisbank as a whole, there's us, the digital assets unit, but also there's banking, there's KYC, there's lending, cards, issuance, and so on. And as said before, as they are commodified, we like digital assets are commodified, and we see a strong ecosystem growing with growing these things together. And that's the broader mission of the Solarisbank. And I think there will be tremendous use cases from combining different parts of the value chain that we all offer.
Cool. Thank you so much, guys, for the nice interview.
Thank you, Dana.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.